English with deck. Ah, that is a bloody good cup of tea. Wow. Okay, that hits perfectly. Oh my gosh, 1 second. You know, the temperature is perfect. The amount of milk is perfect. The flavor is perfect. Oh, today's going to be a great day. You know, oh wow, I'm lost for words. Like honestly, the the level of perfection within this cup of tea is absolutely phenomenal. Actually, I just got back from a run, and during my stretch out, boiled the kettle. Obviously, I had some water. Oh, actually, I didn't have water after my run today. I had a Japanese wheat tea, mugicha. Uh, why? I'm not particularly sure. Sometimes I have water, sometimes I have wheat tea, other times I have, what else might I have? A glass of milk, for example. Depends on my mood as much as anything else. Of course, electrolyte drinks on a very hot day. But then during the workout, my workout post run stretch, I boiled the kettle, let it sit for a while, hence the temperature being perfect off the first sip. We make a hot drink, and quite often. Can you hear that? It sounds like chaos. I think my wife and kids just got up, and the tranquility of the morning just changed. To put it politely, the tranquility of the morning evaporated. There you go. That's a great phrase. Wow, chaos. Pure chaos. Okay, well, after this, I will go and assist. Um, anyway, yes, so after my run, did a little post run stretch. Now I have my tea, sat in my office, enjoying the morning breeze flowing into the room from the open windows today. Two windows open. And yeah, cannot complain. Which is quite interesting because today's episode, I want to talk briefly about something that affects some, but not all of us. And, until recently, this really didn't have that much effect on me per se. And that is daylight savings times. Now, why, you might ask, why did it affect me recently? Well, it recently began to affect me simply because I went, well, self-employed. I started my own business, and until starting my own business, well, of course, daylight savings means some days are longer, some days are shorter. But my clients, well, they were few and far between at that time. And, it didn't really have a big knock on effect on my life. However, as of starting my own business a little while back, with clients in, say, Europe and some clients in, I don't know, Mexico, some clients in, what else might be affected? Well, actually, Mexico didn't really have an effect, but predominantly in Europe. Oh, and in Australia, of course, yes. What it did, it sort of pushed their time back recently. So that meant that as my time didn't change and their time went back an hour. For example, if they have an early morning lesson, Japan time, their regular evening lesson would be even later in the evening, meaning some adjustments had to be made. Unfortunately, I just simply couldn't um, adjust to an even earlier schedule in my case for the very early morning lessons I have, and luckily they were very accommodating. Those particular people, the people in Australia, they did adjust slightly, but I think their schedule changed anyway, so it kind of worked out nicely. But it did have an effect for the first time. So that's me personally. Now let's get into what is daylight savings and why we have it. Now, daylight savings is this fascinating concept, and I actually wasn't entirely aware of this until researching for this episode. I won't lie. And basically, the original reason for changing the clock was in the spring of 1916, World War One, during World War One, should I say? Um, and basically, it became a bit of a way to conserve energy and reduce electricity usage and conserve fuel. Basically, to align with the time the sun rises and sets, as it lengthens or shortens the day during the winter and spring months. Well, autumn, winter, spring, summer, of course. Okay, and basically the reason it is, well, there's various sources, but the most common theme which I can find is that the reason it is maintained today is to provide more light for recreational activities and economic benefits such as increased consumer spending. Now that means basically the government maintains it, or the governments, should I say, various world governments, maintain it for various reasons, including people being able to do more in the evenings or in the mornings, and for various economic benefits, i.e., spend more money. And so let's get to the three key points here. Now, energy conservation, saving energy. So the main goal was originally to reduce the need for lighting in the evenings. Extended evening light. By pushing the sunset 1 hour later, it provides more daylight hours after work for school, leisure, gardening, and shopping. Now, that will be the key one, in my opinion. Okay, and basically, it was actually first suggested in 1784 to save on candles. Again, consumerism, people spending money. It is very related, it has a strong relation to economics here. Okay, however, it was first properly implemented, first released, first properly uh, made popular in 1916, 1916. Okay, and and basically now there are a few debatable energy savings being suggested. Modern studies show that while lighting usage goes down, energy consumption for air conditioning and heating may increase, basically making any energy savings actually irrelevant. However, that's a difficult one. And health concerns. Okay. Again, this one because it's only 1 hour different, does it really cause that much of a disruption to our sleep? Does it really interrupt our sleep so much? And this word is a great word because apparently it disrupts our circadian rhythm. Now that is your sleep rhythm, the way you sleep, the amount of sleep you get. For example, deep sleep and sleeping properly. Okay, and just to finalize with something which is pretty important on this topic, the locations. Okay, now I'm in Japan and daylight savings Daylight servings? Here, have some daylight savings. You don't get any food here, you get daylight savings. Ha ha ha. No, daylight savings is not honored, it is not followed in Japan. You know, most of Europe, North America, parts of Australia, and small parts of America and Africa. Okay, I did not realize about Africa. Okay, interesting. Also, portions of the Caribbean, Cuba and Haiti, Bermuda as well. Okay, interesting. Okay, but of course, uh, Asia as a whole does not follow it. The majority of Africa and most of South America. Okay, so there you have it, a very brief history and summary of what daylight savings is. Now, at the end of the day, daylight savings affects us all in different ways. It really depends on our career, our lifestyle, and also, of course, where we are in the world. So, with those three factors in mind, are you affected by daylight savings? Is this a new concept to you? Please let people know in the comments. Absolutely. And whilst you are there in the comments, absolutely, just move the mouse if you're on the computer or wiggle the screen, over to the review section. And as well as a comment, a review would be absolutely appreciated, the more reviews we get, the more the podcast and the series and the my face is sort of distributed, which means you have more listeners to listen with. And then with more listeners comes more opportunities to converse and get the community growing. If we can grow the Deck English community, well, that would be fantastic. We need to sort of shout from the rooftops. We need to exclaim with all our enthusiasm about Deck English and the podcasts and services available. It doesn't have to be a crazy 10-line review. A simple star rating and a couple of lines is perfect. And if you don't want to, you don't even have to do it in English if that makes it easier for you. I completely understand that sometimes writing, especially on a computer in a second language, is not always easy. Good practice, it is great practice, but sometimes it takes time and it can be daunting. So I completely understand, and I think it's perfectly fine if you want to leave a review in your own native language. Okay, well, on that note, guys, let's leave it there. And I think it's time to say, have a great morning, have a great evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Enjoy yourselves. See you in the next one. Bye now. Bye, 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 bye.